All right, what's up, gentlemen? Welcome back to Biology is the Secret. This is going to be episode 6. All right, this is all about fat loss, but more importantly, it is all about inflammation, right? If we look at my before and after photos here, holy crap. If you look at my before and after photos here, you'll see that obviously I was able to lose a little bit of fat, but more importantly, I reduced my inflammation. So my skin looks a lot better. Everything looks a lot tighter. Same thing with my physique here. Again, I had abs in this photo. However, they were kind of watery. They were kind of loose. And you'll see a lot of people at the gym who have physiques that look like this. Yes, they'll have a good muscle mass. They might be relatively lean, but for some reason, they still have this kind of watery look. You might have it as well. Okay, I wasn't able to achieve this high level of leanness where everything is super sharp. I pretty much have an 8-pack in this photo, right? And I did this again, not by just losing body fat, but by reducing the inflammation in my body. Of course, fixing my posture was a big part of that as well. If you haven't watched the other episodes, of course, go back and watch that. Okay, if you ever see guys at bodybuilding shows and they are super incredibly lean, they might be taking something like a diuretic, and that's going to reduce the water in their body. Okay, inflammation and water retention, they work pretty close in tandem, right? If we reduce our inflammation, then we reduce water retention as well. Okay, so that should be our goal if we want to get as lean as possible and really look our best both facially and in our physique, right? Now, again, losing body fat is the easiest part of getting lean, but being truly lean in appearance requires more than fat loss. Now, there's 3 main components of having a razor sharp physique, okay? Fat loss, number 1. Of course, we have to lose fat. Even if we just lower our inflammation and we increase our muscle density, if we're still 20% body fat, we're not going to be lean. But once we've reduced that fat loss, taking that to the next level is going to require us to, again, lower that inflammation. And we need to have muscle density to be very, very high, right? We need to have the skin tight against the muscles, and that only comes with muscle density. This is going to have us looking more vascular. Our muscle separation is going to show a lot better, and all that jazz. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is I'm going to go through each of these things one by one, starting with fat loss. I'm going to tell you the exact steps to do each. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to pay attention to what is continually recurring in each of these steps, because there's going to be a couple things that you hear more than once through each of these things, whether it's reducing fat loss, lowering your inflammation, or building your muscle density. All right, and what I want you to do is take the mental note of that, because if it's recurring throughout these things, then you should understand that it is one of the highest leverage things that you need to pay attention to and really make sure that you're doing it correctly. Okay, so the exact steps to actually reduce body fat. The first thing is we need to reduce cortisol with quality sleep. Okay, if you've watched the other episodes, you understand that your hormones play an extremely important factor when it comes to losing body fat. Body fat is our long-term stored energy. That means it is something our body holds on to as a resource, right? If we are stressed out, if we are in a sympathetic state, a survival state, then our body wants to hold on to fat. It wants to maintain energy. So we need to be getting high quality sleep, reducing our cortisol so our body feels safe to be in that parasympathetic state and to actually burn through body fat and build muscle more effectively, okay? Now, the second thing is we need to eat in the correct caloric deficit, okay? Everybody should know, right? If you're online even a little bit, if you've done any type of research when it comes to losing body fat or getting in shape, you should understand how important a caloric deficit is. But there is one particular mistake that a lot of people make, and that is eating too little of a caloric deficit, okay? If you eat too little, your body starts to produce a hormone called ghrelin. And what this does is, again, signals for your body to hold onto body fat and start storing that long-term energy for survival because it thinks you are starving, right? So for me, right, everybody has a total energy expenditure. It's how many calories we burn throughout the day doing our normal activities. It increases when you're exercising, etc., right? So you should be able to calculate that. Right. So for me, again, my total energy expenditure is about 3,400 calories. If I were to go on a diet right now where I'm eating 1,500 calories, my body is going to be in such a high level of stress that ghrelin hormone is going to be produced and it's going to hold on to body fat. Right. I might lose a big chunk of weight initially, but once, I've lost that fat initially, our body's going to, again, produce that hormone. It's going to start holding on to it for dear life. Then I'll slowly lose weight, and it won't be fat that I'm losing. It's going to be muscle, okay? And that is obviously counterproductive to our goals of being healthier, of being more attractive, okay? So we need to make sure that we're eating enough food and we're not in such a severe caloric deficit that we are, again, producing this ghrelin hormone, okay? So what is the correct caloric deficit? All right, what you should do is you should figure out what your total energy expenditure is, and you should eat at about a 500 calorie deficit, all right? We only really want to lose about 1% of our body fat per week in order to make sure that we're losing fat, not any muscle, not producing that ghrelin hormone. Of course, you can push it a little bit faster, but what I would just ask you is why? Why is that so important for you to get to the result that much faster, right? We want to make sure that this is a long-term goal that we reach and that we sustain, okay? This is not a sprint, it's a marathon. I know that sounds a little bit cliche, but it's the truth, all right? So again, 1% of your body fat, if you weigh 200 pounds, the most you want to lose is going to be 2 pounds per week, okay? And that's going to be a little bit more of a deficit. At that rate, you might want to eat around 750 calories. It does fluctuate a little bit, but if you are eating in a deficit that is more than 1,000 calories and doing on cardio on top of it and lifting weights, you can pretty much guarantee you're going to be in too much of a deficit and start to produce that ghrelin hormone, okay? Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we do steady state cardio on a consistent basis, okay? So a great example of steady state cardio, walk on a treadmill, 3-speed, 12 incline, boom, perfect, right? Go sit on the stationary bike, go ahead and do, maybe a 12 resistance, burn 100 calories. Whenever I do cardio, I'm always going by calorie count, not by time, okay? So, maybe I'm doing 50 calories of cardio to warm up, and then I'm doing 150 calories of cardio when I actually finish my exercise. That's 200 calories that I've burnt on top of my workout, and then eating in a deficit, I'm going to lose body fat. Right? Now, again, that is the easiest part of these, the first three things, okay? So reducing our cortisol through quality sleep, eating in that caloric deficit, and then doing steady state cardio. If you do all three of those things, I guarantee you're going to lose body fat, okay? If you're doing it right. Now, obviously, the next thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to lower our inflammation. Now, this is where it's going to get a little bit more interesting. Now, what's the first thing on there? Take note, high quality sleep. Okay, because this is so important for having a healthy hormonal system, we have to get high quality sleep. Again, if our body is in a stressed out state, it will produce inflammation. You will have higher cortisol, and that's going to lead to more water retention and inflammation, right? The next thing we want to do is we want to remove inflammatory inputs. This is processed foods, alcohols, and drugs. Believe me, I understand. I used to smoke that fat ganja pack, and it was freaking lit, okay? But when it comes to, again, getting to these goals, alcohol, drugs, it's really just bad, right? Your body is not, capable of continuing to consume these things on a regular basis and still being in a parasympathetic state, right? So stop smoking weed, stop drinking alcohol, stop eating your shit relentlessly to the hub, right? And reduce or completely cut out the processed foods. Now, my role is you want to aim for 100%. You should aim for perfection. If you're aiming for any less than that, there's really, I just don't understand what you're doing. Okay, but what's going to happen is life is going to naturally happen. If you are aiming to eat 100% of the time whole foods, you eliminate the processed foods from your diet, there's still going to be times in life where you just simply can't avoid it or you don't want to, right? A pretty girl, you might have an opportunity to take her on a date. You're going to go to a restaurant. The foods are probably going to be a little bit more processed, right? Your family's going to invite you out. It's going to be Christmas. Something's going to happen where that is naturally going to occur in your life. And you want to be able to indulge in that and enjoy it in the moment, right? So make sure that you're aiming for 100% outside of that and just don't continue to eat processed foods. If you eat once, you take the girl on the date, and it's a fantastic date, and you eat a bunch of processed foods, you feed her a little Pizookie, spoon feed it to her. After that, the next day, don't, reheat up the Pizookie, you little lard. Go and eat some whole foods again the next day, okay? Now, the next thing is we want to train hard, but we want to make sure that we recover properly. All right, recovery is super, super important. If you can do something like a sauna, this is going to help relax your body. Again, put you in that parasympathetic state. Training is amazing. It is the stimulus, okay? That means our body enters that sympathetic state because it is being, damaged in a sense, right? And this produces inflammation. When you're actually working out, you're hitting PRs, doing different things like that. That is putting stress on the body. That is breaking down the muscles. That causes inflammation in the body, the same way a typical injury would, but at a, much lower and controlled level, right? So we need to make sure that we then recover properly, right? Whether that's going and doing the infrared sauna, foam rolling, hitting a stretch, taking proper rest days. We shouldn't be training 6 days a week. If you're not a bodybuilder, there's no reason for you to train 6 days a week, right? Go train 4 to 5 days and have very specific days after that are actually ideal for your recovery. Right? And the final piece of getting that razor sharp physique is to increase your muscle density. All right, so what we want to do to make sure that we increase our muscle density is we want to follow an actual exercise program. We should make sure that we are consistently hitting at least volume PRs and we stay in high mechanical tension training. So that's 6 to 12 rep range, right? If you're doing 20 reps in a set, you're not stimulating that muscle enough with high mechanical tension and breaking that muscle down to where you're going to actually start to build up extra muscle fibers and improve that muscle density. So make sure you stick to that 6 to 12 rep range. really go into the gym and push yourself. Like if you can hit more than 12 reps, that should be an indicator, hey, I should pick up a heavier weight. Okay. And then of course, long-term progressive overload. This is going to happen when you're actually training and following a program consistently, naturally, right? If you hit 5 sets of 10 reps with 60 pounds last week of chest press, then when you come in the next week, you should be hitting, 65 pounds, something to continue to progress. Or instead of hitting 10 reps, you're hitting that 12 until, you can do that consistently, and then you're going to pick up a heavier weight, right? Now, next thing we're going to do is we want to make sure that we have adequate glycogen and intramuscular hydration. Okay, so glycogen, this is what fills your muscles. Okay, so if we hit a super intense workout, what we want to do is we want to make sure that maybe we refeed with either fruit or rice. Okay, these are carbs that are going to feed the muscle glycogen in your body, and that's going to help in the recovery process, and it's going to make your muscles denser, right? Glycogen is super important. Okay, so when you're eating, again, try to eat foods that are all whole foods, but rice and fruit with pink salt and honey is going to both feed the muscle, and the fruit in particular is also going to hydrate it as well. But of course, make sure you're drinking adequate amount of water. If you can drink it with pink salt, honey, lemon water, that's something that I do every single morning. That is going to further hydrate you and your muscles, right? And then of course, I've already said it before, make sure that you recover properly after the intense training session. So again, when I finish my workout, I'm going to go do a cool down. I'm going to do cardio. I'm going to burn a little bit more, but I'm going to go from there to an infrared sauna. While I'm in that infrared sauna, I'm going to stretch out. I'm going to do the Big 6 lymphatic drainage method. I have a foam roller. So on my off days, I come into my office here, I lay a foam roller down and I foam roll my body, right? This breaks up that muscle fiber, the tension in my body. It helps loosen the fascia, and it helps my body to recover by getting some additional blood flow to those areas, right? So make sure you have a proper recovery routine that you follow 1 to 2 days a week. Don't just let your off days be where you go in and you sit on your ass and you watch some Netflix and, and just be, lazy, right? Even though it's nice sometimes, of course, you don't have to be perfect, but have some intentionality even in your recovery days. It's going to make a big difference in your physique, right? So if I was giving you a perfect 4-step plan, this is what I would tell you to do. Step 1, make sure you eat a whole foods diet, eliminate all those processed foods. Simple, right? From there, you're going to follow a structured hypertrophic exercise plan where you're lifting 4 to 5 days per week. Right? After you're lifting, you're going to complete a mix of both steady state cardio and high intensity cardio sessions. So what that would look like is doing steady state cardio, walking on an inclined treadmill for, let's say 3 speed, 12 incline, pretty standard. And then you're going to go and you're going to do sprints. You're going to do 6 60-meter sprints. Very, very simple. You can do this in the grass. If you have a track close by, you can do that, or you can do it on one of the machines at the gym. Okay, that is super important for making sure that your hormones are optimized. Sprinting is one of the most aligned biological exercises that we can do. It corrects our posture, it builds muscle, it loses body fat, and it improves our cardiovascular endurance. So make sure that you get your sprints in. I know it's a little bit less, how would I say it? Convenient, I guess, but it is super important. And a lot of the times, things that are less convenient happen to just give us better results. So I definitely encourage you to do sprinting. All right, and then step 4 is, again, make sure that you have a dedicated 1 to 2 days for recovery. So hit a sauna, do some foam rolling, do some stretching, something with intentionality to lengthen those muscles, get a little additional blood flow, take care of yourself. If you're really feeling weaker in the gym, do a deload week. That is not going to regress you. It's going to actually help you in the long run, right? So if you go in, you simply cannot hit a PR, your body feels like absolute dog water, and you're like, yo, I don't even know what's going on. You might be in need of having a deload week. So just, either don't go to the gym, but go in there and do maybe a little bit of cardio or something like that, stretch, foam roll, etc. Or go in, do your same movements, but do them at about 60% and really just focus on form instead of really just trying to have the most intense workout and get the fattest pump ever. All right, and if you can complete these 4 steps while maintaining healthy sleep habits and consistently regulating stress through a proper routine, right, for something in the morning or something at night as you're getting ready for bed, then you are going to be really good. And just an example of that's going to be something like journaling, meditating, reading, doing breath work, something that regulates your nervous system and helps you to relieve stress. For me personally, I wake up in the morning, I go outside, I drink my morning drink. It's pink salt, lemon juice, honey, and a little bit of cayenne pepper. That helps aid my digestion in the morning, get everything flowing. Then I'll sit out in the sunlight. I have a folder that I read I am statements. I pray. I take some intentional deep breaths. I do some box breathing, and that's how I regulate myself first thing in the morning. Before the day can stress me out and kick my ass, I start kicking the morning's ass right off rip. And this is going to, again, help us to stay in that parasympathetic state, right? If you have any questions or you need any help with any of this, if you want to get an actual routine, if you just want a better understanding of these things on a higher level, just send me a DM on Instagram. All right, and if you want to work with me one-on-one, there is going to be a link in the description to book a one-on-one call. So go ahead and do that. And of course, if you want to continue to be updated with this series, then go ahead and subscribe. We've got episode 7 coming next.